is our first ever banter episode. Our banter episodes are going to be a little bit more fun and relaxed. We're just going to have a conversation about what our experts have told us and things we'd like to keep talking about, or things we've seen out there in the world on the internet that we feel like are worth bringing up because we see them as problems or things that we need to bring to experts in the future. So this is going to be kind of our little conversation about what we're thinking. And for this one, kind of the reason why we even got started on a podcast.
This is a huge problem that we see in any industry, but I mean, even in our unique industries as well. How to start an LLC? Is an LLC the right choice for me? Or should I do an S Corp? And what does that mean? And if you go to Google, it's not very clear what that means. I went earlier today just for a refresher to Google like difference between an S Corp and an LLC. And it said both are tax, what's the word? Organizing like entities, basically. It's for taxes. But then beyond that, it's like, but they do the same thing. That's literally what Google told me. Like that's what I gathered from it. But that is not true, because if you think that, then you think, well, let me just close my eyes and that one. I'll just pick that one. Mm-hmm. And that's not really the right way to operate your business, right?
Yeah. I mean, when you're Googling something that's completely outside of your field of knowledge, like legal stuff or tax stuff, you're going to be faced with more jargon that you don't understand. So it's just going to keep compiling question on question on question on question because you're just Googling. And Google is a great source for information, but it could lead you down the complete wrong road. There's plenty of people who can make a website or really informative types of blogs and stuff that look professional, that look credible, and they're just full of poop. They're just crap.
And they actually get paid for getting you on their page. So there's no real incentive for them to give out the right information. It's just to get you on their page. So the thing that really gets me is how much misinformation is going out into the world. This is when I realized as a business owner that, okay, owning a business is a lot more than just whatever you're doing for your job. Mm-hmm. Because when I filed my LLC, I was like, well, this is what you're supposed to do. Like I had this dream of having LLC after my business name. I don't know why. That was just one of the things when I started my business I wanted to do. I wanted to see my name next to that. And when I went to go do it, I almost fell for a Google ad that basically asked me to pay like $50 or something for them to file my LLC. And I am very sus about giving my credit card information out online. So that's the only thing that stopped me, because everything looked legit. It said it was through the state of Georgia, which is where I'm at. And everything looked super easy. It was like, we'll do this for you. So yeah, I almost made that mistake myself.
There's a lot of them out there where people just kind of want to take something that's actually pretty easy to do because it's actually not that hard to file. They just want to make a buck off of you. So you're like, oh, well, it's just $50.
Well, it's not that hard if you know what you're doing.
If you know what you're doing, but it's hard to find the information. Once you find it and someone's like, oh, these are the 3 steps you have to take. Like, oh, it was just those 3 steps. But I could have given this other person $50 to do those 3 steps for me. Some people prefer that. A lot of that preference is because they're just really frustrated at not being able to find the information. Something that we started talking about making the podcast, we talked to people and we'd had people tell us, they're like, yes, we can never find the information we want. We go to podcasts, we go to blogs, we go to websites, we do the Google search, we ask everybody on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and we get 1,000 different answers. We get a bunch of people contradicting each other, and we just want someone to tell us what to do. Like, just tell us what these 3 steps are so we don't have to pay for someone to tell us a whole course on how to do it, or have 25 different people argue in a comment section about how to do it correctly. And that's where this really solidified for us that we need to create something that's comprehensive, that comes together, that provides real expert advice on how to do these steps. Because if you just go out there and try and Google it, you could do the entire thing wrong and it could really come back and bite you in the ass.
Yeah, and just because we feel like we know how to do it or we did it a certain way, it would be a little bit, what's the word when you do something that you say not to do? Like
hypocritical?
Yeah, it would be hypocritical of us to say, follow our advice. We're going to start a podcast and tell you exactly how to set up an LLC, and then tell you that you need to follow expert advice. Like, we are not going to be here to tell you how to do it. We're going to be giving you the tools in order to do it yourself. So I support you paying somebody else to file it for you as long as it's somebody who's qualified to do that. And you don't need to waste your money doing that, but it might be a good way to spend your money if you want to make sure that it's done right. Go through a business lawyer, talk to your CPA, and figure out which one is the right option for you, because there are big differences and they're not going to protect you, which is the whole point of it, is to separate yourself from your business if you don't choose the right option for your business. I saw somebody say just today, well, I don't make a certain amount of money, so I chose an S Corp instead of an LLC, which in my opinion is misinformation, because you don't know their situation and you don't know if they start their business this year and they can make $100,000 this year. I don't know what the cap on an S Corp is, and I guarantee that that person doesn't either. And you don't know how much somebody's going to make. So don't take advice from people on a Facebook group or somebody who also owns a business. Ask somebody who knows.
Absolutely. I think that is probably one of the worst ways to try and get advice on how to run your business, is to just put out blanketly, I need help with this, and let the masses kind of weigh in and tell you what to do. So back to you seeing that ad on Google, that if it's credible, if you do your homework and be like, okay, this person is credible, they have the education, they have the knowledge, they can prove that they know what they're doing, what they're talking about, that is a better route than just going to Facebook. Because then you have a bunch of people that you have no clue who they are, or you may know them just through Facebook. You have no clue if they know what they're talking about, if they've even done this. They could have just gone to Google and copy and pasted the answer from that they found on there into the comment section.
Well, in a lot of comment sections, you'll see people saying, this is what I did. You should do this because of X, Y, and Z. But there's no sort of disclaimer to say, this is just my personal experience. This is what worked best for me. Or it might not work for you. Like, talk to somebody, because you can still share your experience. Your experience is valid. But when you're telling somebody else what your experience is in a way to lead them or to imply that they also follow down that path, that it might be a good option for them. So I was just talking to Laura about how people will share their experiences in a comment section in a way that is almost implying that the person who's asking follows these steps as well, with no sort of disclaimer that this is what worked for me, this is what made sense for my business. Maybe you should talk to somebody else about that. I feel like I'm always the only one in the comments where if I do share my experience, I will say, but hey, this is where I got this information from. I talked to a business lawyer and I talked to my CPA as well. So I'm not just making things up. I'm not sharing this information with her without disclaiming that I didn't just make this up. Like I found this out from an expert. This is what worked for me.
You're a very responsible commenter.
Thank you. I also feel like when you own a business, you have to be a little bit more responsible than the average Joe, because people are looking at your comments a little bit differently. Like if I comment on somebody's post and I say something, in jest, and somebody sees that and they're like, oh, that wasn't very professional. Like we see people do unprofessional stuff all the time. And in my opinion, it's very unprofessional to own a business and tell somebody else what to do when you're not an expert in that business. Mm-hmm. So I tried to be a good example, but I'm not perfect. It's a little surprising. But
kind of came out of the best way to handle business questions is through an expert in the field. What are like the worst ways to ask those questions besides just putting it out on Facebook? Some of the worst things that we've seen people do whenever they have a question like this is to just go to a random person, like you said, to a random other business owner, mm-hmm. or someone who's never even had a business, be like, you just tell me what to do. Just help me out. Finding people who are completely unsuccessful or have never done it. You just think they know what they're talking about because they say it with a lot of bravado, that they come across as knowing what they're saying. So you just kind of follow blindly. So I've had a lot of friends who have signed up for random courses online, or have gone into the beginning stages of signing up for courses where it will give them a first week at a discounted price, and then they'll try and get them into paying for the rest of it. And it's broken a lot of people's hearts. They're really excited. I finally found the information I need to get on the right foot so I can really run with this and do great things and finally do what I want to do. After watching a million of that person's TikToks and reading all their Instagram posts and just obsessed with them. They dive into the course and they realize it's complete crap.
Well, I also feel like it's a shame on them also. So shame on you for not doing your due diligence, but when you're in a vulnerable position, it's a lot easier to make these mistakes because there are no resources for you, even especially when you're starting out a business. You have no money to put into these resources. So say you splurge on that course, like this was your first $1,000 that you ever made with your business, and you're spending it on this coach who's going to help you make that back easily. But they know they're targeting these people who have no experience, who don't have the answers to these questions. So no matter what they say, how are you going to tell them that they're wrong? Because this is what they do. This is their specialty. And it's very predatory because I think they start out with wanting to help people, but then they realize the whole, well, if you don't do what I say, exactly how I do it, then it's your fault. Like there's a huge scapegoat that they get away with all the time. And people will accept that blame because they're like, yes, I'm not the expert in it. I made this mistake. It was my bad. They kind of allow themselves to take the blame for somebody else putting them in a position of, authoritative kind of trust and person like who has nothing to give but their trust, basically.
Mm-hmm. That is the loophole of education, though. So if you go and you buy a car and you get on the road and the car starts to break down, you're instantly like, well, dang, there's something wrong with the car. I got to take it back to the car shop. What do the people at the car shop do? When it comes to education, and we all see this because we all grew up going to school and stuff, if you go to school and you come home and you made an F on your science test, it's your fault because you didn't study. You didn't prepare. Your teacher gave you everything they needed to tell you, and you just needed to execute. And you executed poorly, so you got an F. For in education, whenever it's going to college, going to elementary school, taking a course online, it's always assumed that if the person who's taking the course does poorly, it's their fault automatically because they simply didn't do it right. They didn't study hard enough. They didn't implement it correctly. They didn't do the math equation correctly. It's their fault.
I'm one of those people. It would be very easy for me to believe that something is my fault because I have high expectations of myself and I feel like I'm capable. But if I don't do something right, I'm the first person to blame myself. So I think sometimes it's pretty easy to convince somebody that they're the problem.
Mm-hmm. It's really hard to tell your teacher that they're just a bad teacher.
Yeah.
When you know so little about the topic. So
Yeah.
if back to cars, if I'm trying to learn to become a mechanic, I can't tell my teacher in my mechanics class that you're just a bad teacher. You're not teaching me this complex thing correctly because I have no clue what I'm talking about. So you sign up for a course. They're supposed to be teaching you all these things you don't know. Even if it starts to feel off, it feels like maybe I'm not getting what I need out of this. It's hard to say that out loud because you don't know the topic. You do have to put a lot of trust. And then when the course is over and you come out on the other side and it's not working, the whole idea is, well, you just did it wrong.
Yeah,
and there's really no way to go back.
Hindsight is, where you really see kind of what happened. But a lot of times that hindsight, it's like you're already, the next step, at least past that mistake has already happened and you've already built something upon that mistake. So it becomes a lot harder to fix once you've initially made a mistake. And people might just be like, what's the worst that could happen? And every book I've read, every show I've seen, that's the worst thing you could possibly say when something bad happens, because I guarantee you Murphy's Law, something bad will happen. And if you're prepared for it, it's a lot more peace of mind to have knowing that I've set everything up the right way. Even if you've done it yourself and you feel like you've done it the right way, go get your work double checked. Like the buddy system comes into play here. There are people out there who will help you. Yes, they cost money, but their knowledge will make it to where you can avoid having to go backwards and you can just focus on moving forwards and focus on your job and not have to worry about the logistical side of things that you are not an expert in, things that are not your specialty.
It's hard to determine what's good information, what's bad information when you don't know. You're just asking questions about things you really don't know.
So like if you gave advice on something that you didn't know about, you weren't like 100% confident in it, but you thought this person could probably use this advice regardless. It's not malicious, right? Is that like should there be some sort of like, there is no ramifications for you, right? So say that you tell somebody to add something to a contract. You're not a lawyer. You didn't write their contract, and that is the reason that they end up getting sued in the future. Like, how do you hold people accountable for that stuff?
You don't. You just don't ask the general public that stuff. Like you have to be responsible as the business owner too. That if you realize you're asking random Joe over here for business advice, and random Joe over here is not an expert in giving business advice or contracts, that you're putting yourself in a vulnerable position. You can't go back to Joe when you get sued and be like, "Hey, pay my legal fees. You gave me bad advice." Joe's gonna walk away.
Joe's gonna be like, new phone, who this?
Yeah. Joe's not going to care because you didn't take the correct route. So I think a lot of this comes down to, if you are a business owner, you have to do the due diligence to take the correct route, to find the correct information, to cover your own butt. Because if you're just asking Joe, Joe don't care.
Yeah, well-intentioned bad advice is still bad advice.
Exactly. Exactly.
Like that, your friends want to help you, and your friend's not out there to get you most of the time. But your friend's responsibility is not to help your business, really. Like, your friend's responsibility is to be by you when you need them. So, like, you set up your business wrong because you try to do it by yourself, and it all comes tumbling down. That's when you can lean on your friend. You know, they can help you through that, but don't ask them to help you through the logistical side of operating your business. And honestly, it's nobody's business how you logistically run your business either. It's not your client's business, it's not your friend's business. You can talk to a coworker or a colleague about how you're doing things, but just it's sort of a story time type of situation. Like, I wouldn't tell Laura how to do something and she wouldn't tell me how to do it, but we might come together and overcome problems together.
Mm-hmm.
We're probably going to check we're going to fact check first. We're going to make sure that she's well-intentioned, she would never hurt me, but just to be safe, right?
Yeah, I'll help you write an Instagram post, but I'm not going to help you write a contract.
Yeah.
It's very different.
Yeah, you don't want me to write your Instagram posts.
Come to you for neither.
Yeah, and it just so happens that she's really good at stuff that I'm not really good at.
So some of the worst advice, and we've talked about this, is mindset advice.
Oh,
we talked about this earlier where someone was having serious money issues.
Oh my gosh.
It was just like, it was heartbreaking to read this post
like,
where they
just took out like a loan and can't pay it back now. Has all these responsibilities like mortgage, car payment, kids, family.
This person really needed a financial advisor of sorts, or somebody who was an expert in finances, an accountant or something.
They need to read Get Rich Lucky Bitch.
They really needed somebody who could teach them how to budget within whatever income they currently have, how to consolidate debt, how to speak with their credit holders, their whatever credit card or bank they're going through to try and get interest rates lowered or something like that. But instead, they got a lot of positive affirmation YouTube videos. They got a lot of get rich quick mindset books to read.
And here's the recommendations you're going to get. Like, every time, if you're going through a hard time and you ask somebody for advice on social media, you're going to get, you should read X, Y, and Z book. So here's one. Get Rich Lucky Bitch. Unfuck Yourself. That's another one that gets recommended.
All the time.
What's another one? Every Dollar by, what's his name? Dave Ramsey or whatever. Like, these kind of guru systems. What's another really popular mindset book?
Oh my gosh, why'd you have to ask me out loud? I don't know any now. I have a list of what to avoid, and now I'm like, oh, a book? What's a book?
Girl Wash Your Face.
Yes,
That's another one that is very popular, specifically in like conservative, like religious circles.
But it's not a business book. But people keep recommending it like it's a business book.
Mindset and religion and like some sort, like faith or whatever, it's very closely tied into money, in my opinion, because of reasons. So they always are tied to these certain books that align with that. And then if you think about running a business, it's tied into money, it's tied into mindset, it's tied into like kind of social awareness stuff, like how your business is seen and how you feel about your business is going to manifest how you're seen. But listen, this person is in like $100,000 worth of debt right now.
They're not going to be able to think their way out of that one.
Yeah, there's
They're-
no I could wash my face until it's completely off of my head.
You have no face.
And I will now have to pay for surgery and pay back all of my debt.
Dang, that was a bad idea.
But and like these people genuinely think they're well intentioned. Like they're not trying to be dismissive, but in my opinion, if I'm having a hard time and somebody recommends a book to me, I'm gonna feel like they're being dismissive of my problems. Like they're just kind of like, here, try this. Like, take that.
It depends on the book. There are some good books out there that can help, but that particular situation needed a professional, and the poor woman didn't need to read a book. She'd even listed books she had read.
Oh yeah,
she needed an actual expert to come in and be like, okay, this is how much money you have, this is what you're spending, this is how much you're buying on this, and this is where we need to change how you're allocating your funds. She needed that. She needs someone to come in, and you have $25 a month to spend on coffee. Don't go over $25. Yeah. You've got $400 a month for food. Don't go over for that. She needed that type of structure to get back into a financial place where she was comfortable.
It becomes like a sort of cognitive dissonance where people don't know that the things that they are saying are actually detrimental to, because like this girl had already said, like even if self-help books like were a possible solution, which they're not, but if they were, she's like, I've already tried self-help books, it is not working. And everybody's like, oh, you just haven't read the right one.
It's always not the right one.
Or it's not the right words. To what you were saying.
It's not like, the right affirmation.
Who's holding these people accountable? Like if you're in a coaching class and this coaching class, I already tried this coaching class, it didn't work for me, I didn't like the class. Oh, well, you didn't follow it correctly. You got to just try the next course after that one. That'll fix all your problems. And in reality, it's you need to start at the ground. You got to work on the foundation of everything before you start worrying about, like, continued education is always good. Always work on making yourself better, but you got to get good first. Like, you got to get in a good spot or else nothing else is going to matter when the IRS comes after you because, sure, you only made $600 last year, so you decided to get an S Corp. But you didn't pay taxes correctly or you didn't follow your S Corp the right way. And now guess what the IRS is threatening to do to you over your $600? Like, they don't mess around. They'll find you.
There's some clarity I'd like to throw in is I believe in having a good mental state. I do believe that it affects your life, that your outlook can really affect how you go throughout your day and how you get things done.
A bad one.
Yeah. But it's standing in front of the mirror and saying, I'm a boss bitch billionaire 7 times every morning isn't that. Being in a really bad mental place can screw everything up. But being in a really good mental place isn't going to necessarily change your situation. You can be in a really good mental place and have a great mindset and still be very broke. It's not going to change your financial situation just being in a good mental place. It's not going to change your living situation. It's not going to change your physical health.
People kind of equivalate not having much to a negative mindset, but there are a lot of houseless people that are happy.
Hearing people talk about the law of attraction and the ones who are spearheading the whole movement, it's not a law, it's a theory, it's a concept, it's an idea. They've been asked point blank questions like, well, if a child is diagnosed with cancer, did they attract that cancer into them? And there are people in the head of the movement who have said yes, that everything that happens to you is because you attracted it to yourself.
Or their parents attracted that to their child.
Yeah, and that's the harmful side of it, where I see it breaking people.
Yeah.
Is they've dug themselves so deep into, I attract everything that I have, and these things keep happening in their life that are completely out of their control. And in their business, since this is a business podcast, we'll try and keep a little bit on there. And it's just completely out of their control. Like, they got hit by a car. They did not attract that car to hit them. That is kind of the way the theory works, is that you have to think certain ways, bring in certain words into your life to attract the good, or else you're attracting bad. And it's sometimes out of your control, and you have to be okay with that. And if you keep saying that, well, I'm just bringing all this negativity into my life, I just have to get the right words, I have to say the right thing, I have to think the right thing to change anything and it doesn't change because it's out of your control, it can really destroy you
And telling
mentally.
somebody else that, like, you're messing with somebody else's life. Like, if they become kind of dependent on that manifestation, like, oh, you need to read this self-help book when you're in, crippling debt, you're messing with that person's life. Like, you're messing with their finances and their family when you tell them that's the only thing they need to do. On the kind of the flip side of that, am I the asshole for coming on there and saying, hey, I don't know why everybody's recommending these books to you, but you need to go see a financial advisor? Like, am I the bad person for bringing that into the conversation? Because nobody else did. It's like, I'm the only person in the room seeing a problem with this. Or maybe other people do too, and they don't say anything. And then what if this person, all it took was for one person to say, hey, these are the resources that you need to go to in order to try to get out of this situation, because nobody said it. Like, I didn't say it. So what if that's all somebody needs, though? They just need that tool that, hey, do this, out of all of the echo chamber of things that already aren't working for you, because it's not real advice. It's not a real solution to your problem.
Yeah, that law of attraction YouTube video that they were sent in the comments was never going to help
It's
them.
almost like triggering to me, honestly, when people do that. Like, I can't understand messing with somebody else's life to that extent. And people don't always share all the details like that poster did, but it really upsets me that they were basically telling her it was her fault.
That's kind of what it is. And law of attraction, the way it tells you that what's happening to you is your fault. And the person who posted that probably 100% believes in law of attraction, that it will help this person.
It's kind of like a privileged
which is kind
standpoint.
Of sad. It is very a privileged standpoint,
Yeah.
thinking that you can think your way out of problems, because there's lots of people living in serious freaking problems in war zones right now, and you want to tell that person living in a war zone that the war is their fault because they thought wrong?
It seems like a mindless thing that sometimes people who have a lot of privilege in their life say things that don't always translate the right way. They come off offensive because somebody's struggling here. This is clearly their situation. You have a brain and you could say, hey, maybe this person actually needs a little bit of business help. Like, here's some business resources. And then you're in your semi-charmed life, which that song's gonna be stuck in my head. You're saying, oh, here's this law of attraction video. It works for me. My life's great. Until it's not.
Yeah, until it's not. And that video doesn't work anymore. To find a new YouTube video. I think that covers it for me. Like, that's where it really falls off. Is I 100% believe in having a good mindset and checking in with yourself. I'm definitely not going to think that having a good mindset is going to fix my financial problems or my physical problems or my business problems. It will aid me on helping me see clearly and find the right resources if I'm thinking positively and not just throwing myself in a corner going, it's all over, the world is ending.
I wonder if people are going to feel strongly about the manifestation thing. Like, I wonder if there's going to be some listeners or viewers who are very passionate about manifestation and don't see it the way that we do. But I also wonder if you could acknowledge that it's not always the right answer to things. It's not always the solution. It's not going to prevent everything. I think Laura did a pretty good job of saying, like, yeah, being positive is fine. But would you offer, like, if you're very into manifestation and speaking things into existence, would you offer somebody who is in a lot of trouble and needs something to change, like ASAP, would you just say, here's a book recommendation on positive mindset or girl power? What would your answer be to that?
So all this talk about doing things the right way, we're going to start you guys off with a business lawyer. We have someone very special that's coming in to help discuss what is the difference between an LLC and an S Corp. How do you go about signing them up? What is the correct way to approach each of them? Or should you even approach them at all? So if you've been having those questions, we have someone coming to tell you exactly what to do.
Yeah,
and he's credible and he's real.
He is
and
licensed.
You can check him out.
He is an actual lawyer, so we're not just talking to somebody who thinks they know what they're talking about. And we have a list of questions that we have prepared, just kind of like frequently asked questions when we went on to Google and it brought up related questions.
We Googled it.
We did Google. Google has its purposes, but it's mostly for finding what, like, if I was looking for an answer, I would have been screwed because all that came up were more questions, which came in handy here because now we have a list of questions to ask him. And then we're also going to talk about some things that he sees new business owners or established business owners doing, and detrimental mistakes that he's seen been made because they didn't. Was that English?
Yeah.
Been made. They see. It's the South. It's all English. So
That dumb stuff that they did that they shouldn't have done.
They done did that they shouldn't have done. That's the Queen's English right there.
Yep.
So he's going to talk about all of that good stuff and maybe give us a horror story or two, because sometimes being scared straight is what it takes. Hopefully nobody has to go through that situation themselves.
Mm-hmm. Hoping to prevent some fires.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to prevent here, because as much as we are frustrated by all of this kind of all the questions around starting a business, owning a business, the logistics of it, we also want to help. We don't want to just make fun of people or
bring up more questions and not answer them.
Yeah.
So we're going to bring up questions and we're going to find the people to answer them, because what's the point of having a question if you don't have an answer?
And we're trying not to end this on a cliffhanger, but kind of to ask you to tune in next time, where we'll have our expert on, and we'll be sending out our first email with notes from his advice directly from the horse's mouth. Provide all of that to you when you sign up for our email list for free, because say you can't listen to the whole podcast or you just missed an episode, we'll send it right to you, and you'll still be able to take advantage of what our experts are trying to share, because experts like the lawyer that we're bringing on, they really want people to do better also, or else they wouldn't have agreed to be on our podcast. So we really thank them for that.
That is something as we've been reaching out, because we've been working on this for a little while. The people we've reached out to are the experts. They're so happy to come on and because they see the horror stories. They really do. And they get asked all the dumb questions, and they're really excited to come on and shed some light on some crazy. I mean, some of these people in their fields have seen some of the craziest misinformation in the world.
To come in, because I think that any business lawyer has seen some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was talking to him about it, he sounded really excited to potentially make a difference.
Everything that's talked about in each episode will be on the blog, on the website as well. Just go to the website. It's all there. You should just hang out there all the time. It's a great place. It's fun. It's beautiful.
And also, I don't think we ever gave ourselves any sort of professional introduction, did we?
Oh no, we're just two chicks with microphones.
Just random people. We exist.
We just found the internet and said, "Hey, let's do stuff on it."
We are business owners, which we did say. But Laura's a graphic designer, and she does a bunch of branding work and kind of specializes in business, right? Would you add anything?
Yeah. So my official title is I'm the creative director of a creative agency. So we predominantly just help businesses use creativity to actually convert and to grow their business.
And I met her through a professional relationship, which then turned into, hey, we have the same disgruntlements.
Yeah, we're angry at the world in the same way. Let's make a podcast and fix some things.
Yeah. We'll try.
Yeah. We'll give it our best shot.
And I'm a fine art photographer, so I specialize in photography. But I also do a lot of nonprofit work on the side. I'm on the board of a nonprofit. I do volunteer work for nonprofits, and I also have no time to do anything else except.
That's a lot of work.
But then we decided we're very busy people. Let's start a podcast.
Let's make it busier.
How hard could it be? And we spent 4 weeks or something just learning how to do all of this.
Oh yeah, we were working on this for 2 months before we ever turned on the record button. Easy, just goofing off, running into walls, yelling at computers,
filing an LLC.
So
all this stuff is fresh in our mind. You can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at TCEBTB. So check out our announcements. We'll be posting our experts there. We'll be posting our new episode date, and we'll be posting polls for you to participate in, so you can tell us what you want us to talk about next time.
To provide you with practical and knowledgeable advice, it's important to do your own research and consult with a professional before making any decisions that could impact your business.
The information we provide is for educational purposes only and should not be taken as legal, financial, or any other professional advice.
And with that, we want to thank you for tuning in to Clever Entrepreneurship Beyond the Boardroom. Until next time, keep building
and growing your business.